What's up, everybody? I've had a pretty interesting last 2.5 months, and I'll lay it out thus. I got mono 2.5 months ago. For 2 to 3 weeks during that period, the whole time I was sick and just didn't feel right. For 2 to 3 weeks out of that period, I was completely debilitated, just bedridden. The only thing that I could do was wake up, go run my company for 4 hours because I couldn't run. I just could not stand being there anymore. I had to sleep and lay down and rest. Then I'd go home and lay in bed and like Netflix and chill in the literal sense all night until I went to sleep and did the whole thing over again. My headache was, I had this whole head headache that you get when you get the flu, that you feel like when you get the flu, was so bad that at certain times, I could not even fire neurons to think. Like, I just couldn't think. If I would think, it hurt. It hurt my brain to think. And, aside from me being 5 years old and having pneumonia and being bedridden in the hospital, this is the worst thing that I've ever had, the worst illness I've ever had to deal with. I've never had any cancers. I've never had any real serious illnesses. So to date, this is the worst. I mean, I did not feel like I was going to get out of it, and it was horrible. I ended up finally just going extreme and doing what it is I do, which is get obsessed about solutions and start to try things that conventional doctors wouldn't suggest, and all this sort of thing, just to find an answer and to find a solution. That ended up being high-dose vitamin C till bowel intolerance. It's called titrating. Very interesting stuff, and medically supported as well, which got me to the point where I'm like 95. Today I feel like great. I'm like 95%. I went and ran my company, and I've been like that for a few days. But it's this last few days where I felt better that I want to talk about, to reinforce the significance of taking a goddamn break when you're an entrepreneur. For the past 2.5 months, because I've had this illness, the Epstein-Barr virus, which underlies infectious mononucleosis, has been literally kicking my ass. So I have had to essentially separate from all things productivity. I couldn't even think about doing things related to business. I couldn't post a blog post. I couldn't think about marketing in either one of the companies that I own now. There was nothing I could do except for watch movies and watch Netflix. And even then, sometimes I could not even watch Netflix. It was just so bad. My brain just could not process all this visual stimuli being, processed in my occipital lobe, and me dealing with it. I couldn't do it. So during that time, I spent a disproportionate amount of that time in bed. And the interesting thing about that is that after all of that time of completely separating from business, completely separating from even thinking about business, completely separating from my regular life, and just resting all the time, that when I went back to running my business life, when I managed to get myself to a functional point where I could go and run my business and feel good and feel energized and not feel like I had the worst disease in the world, everything I did was 100 times more effective. My productivity has been amazing over the last 4 or 5 days. The feeling of excitement and drive about doing the things that all the various routes I'm taking for forward motion, whether it's building my new company or working on my current company, and all the sort of multitude of things, the feeling of motivation increased multifold, tenfold. I can't even explain it. But if I think about, could I try to explain it? The answer really is, it's just how I feel when I recover from burnout. And this is the important thing to get across. I effectively recovered from burnout during that time. Before I got sick, for a considerable period of time, I was exceptionally non-motivated to do anything. I was doing it. When you're burnt out as an entrepreneur, you still have that woven fabric in your neurology that makes you just be productive either way. We're just automaton, robot productivity. But but it doesn't mean you're happy about it, and it doesn't mean you're excited about being motivated. It doesn't mean that you look forward to doing things and you find new ways to approach what you're doing so you can make it better. You just don't want to evolve when you're burnout. You're not excited. It makes you think like the industry that you chose, is this the right industry? I'm not even excited about it, or whatever it is you're doing. I don't even like this right now. And you have to be able to separate yourself, your sick self or your burnt out self, both in this case, from your normal self. And know that, no, it's not that you hate what you're doing. It's not that you're not motivated about what you're doing. Like, you need a fucking break. You need to stop, get off the mat, completely remove yourself from all things that have to do with what you do every day, whether it's doing something else like going horseback riding, or it's laying in bed and watching Netflix, or laying in bed doing nothing, with like Zen music in the background and candles and not doing anything. So effectively what happened to me in this time period is, so prior to me getting sick, I was just burnt out. I mean, I was completely burnt out. I wasn't excited about anything, and this has been happening for months. And I knew consciously, because I've been through this many times, I'm an entrepreneur of like 6 years now, that I needed a break. I'm like, dude, I know I'm burnt out and I need to like stare at a beach for a week. I need to do all that stuff. But I just didn't get myself to do it. Like, I was like, we're not there yet. I don't want to spend the $2,000 to go to Atlantic City and just like sit on the beach for a while. And that means I got to bring some more contractors on to work for one of my companies. And I've had problems with them in the past. So I just muscled it through. You know how we do it, like as entrepreneurs, we just like rationalize our way through it. The sickness, me getting mono, forced me to break, forced me to unplug and reset. And coming back into building my business after essentially a 2.5 month hiatus for the most part, but in this severe symptoms, like 3 weeks or so of just like strictly not doing anything, was the craziest reset I've had in my entire career as an entrepreneur. I've never come back from an attempt to fix burnout so with a zest for life, and so with like a zest to go and kill it being an entrepreneur. I did things like this week, today, I did things, administrative things, marketing things, other business things that I haven't had the drive to do, or just like thought I just put it by the wayside. Critical things that I was literally okay with just letting go, that I haven't done in so long because I was burnt out. So the major point is this, right? And alongside the story, I was super burnt out. I did not take a break from burnout because I'm an entrepreneur and I just want to get things done. I was forced to take a break because I got a debilitating illness, which rendered me completely ineffective and without the capacity to work, to do anything. I was forced thus to take a break. That break reset me completely, reset my burnout. I went back to being an entrepreneur and running my business, and now I'm killing it. I'm being doubly productive. One of my companies has done like 10% more revenue in the past week. And I've set things up essentially to continue that trend and to really just improve upon a whole bunch of processes I haven't wanted to touch for months. And that's because I was forced to goddamn shut up and separate myself completely, physically and mentally, from everything business and just fucking relax. And I know that that's hard for entrepreneurs to hear. I know that that's hard for entrepreneurs to do. I mean, look at me, like I'm here. I'm one of you. In the beginning, when we weren't making enough money, we weren't even doing much revenue, and before we were profiting, it's like it was much harder to take breaks. But I still got myself to do it because fairly early on I became conscious, like I do know that I need to recharge my batteries. You know what I mean? I need to, whatever's going on in terms of neurotransmitter imbalance right now that's making me not happy about any of this stuff, I know I need to change that. So I still took breaks early on. And I know that's difficult to make that commitment when your company isn't successful and everybody's like, you watch YouTube and see other entrepreneurs and like hustle for 17 hours straight, sleep for 7, and that's how you should do it. And while I think that's true to some extent, it's not true 24/7, 365, and it shouldn't be, because that's going to burn you out. And you really have to take those breaks to recharge. Taking breaks to recharge. It's such a difficult thing for people like us because it's like we're so driven by execution. We're so driven by doing things and by seeing results. It's like a dopamine hit. Every time you do something and you see a result and you can affect something, it's like a dopamine hit. And we never want to give ourselves the time to relax. And like I said, like I know in the early stages of like building your company, you don't want to, but I think you have to ask yourself the question, at what point am I allowed to just like chill the fuck out for a little bit? You know, at what point do I forget all this sort of stigma of being lazy? And what point do I tend to like my nervous system and the rest of my body and my health in the realm of stress reduction and try to improve my brain capacity as a result of that and my overall level of well-being? At what point do I give myself that break? And what I've found over the years, and I think like you'll read this on the web if you Google the phrases similar to what I'm about to say, is that the more experience you get as an entrepreneur, the more you understand the need to take breaks. That's what I've come to understand. And I think that if anything, let this be some validation for those of you who are entrepreneurs that don't think that way, that have an inkling that that might be the case, that in fact is the case. That the more breaks you take when you're burnout, that this doesn't warrant breaks every week or 5-day separations every 3 days. Like it's like you kind of have to not go extreme with it. You have a business to run, you've got things to do, etc. But let this be some validation that if you're not excited about what you're doing anymore and you've lost the zest to build your business and to be effective as an entrepreneur, all that stuff you had, all those fucking sparks flying that makes you, just outperform your peers and be effective and be awesome. If all that stuff is gone, you have to find a way to take a break. Go read the 4-Hour Workweek and figure out how to like automate something in your business. Like I automated appointment making capacity in one of my companies, and it helped me tremendously to not answer the phones. And like that part kind of helped me to recharge in some capacity. Now I'm back to answering phones, and it was like super interesting. So find a way to hack your life in a way. I know it's hard, but you have to find a way. If you're broken mentally and in terms of motivation, to just chill the hell out. And like I said before, like maybe it's horseback riding. Maybe it's a trip somewhere. Maybe it's like you get into wrestling or you get into Krav Maga. Like I don't know, But if you don't have the money to do that, or if you don't want to do that, or if you're not interested in doing any of those things and you want something very simple, literally just Netflix and lay in bed. Like lay in bed, you watch all those series and just totally veg out for the whole time. You're not being unproductive. You're setting yourself up for twice the productivity. That's the thing. If you look at it quantifiably at the end, you probably get more done when you get back in. That'll account for the time that you were out and the work that you missed. And you'll be so much more motivated and you'll feel 100% better, which will make it 100% worth it anyway, regardless of whether or not you can find quantifiable productivity compared to your baseline. It's really important, guys, really, really important. And I'm not only making this video to tell you that and to validate that in your brain, because I've always looked for these kind of videos as I was moving up, like being an entrepreneur, and I couldn't fucking find any like most of the time. So I want to do this for you. But I'm also doing this so that I can watch this video again and so that I can remind myself like, Rye, you need to stop and basically execute on the notion that the best way for productive re-execution is complete and total separation. Thanks for watching.